I want to circle back to what you said about vocabulary, because in learning about teaching English learners, I had read that even if a student is reading English with like fluently, right, that we should not necessarily assume that they're comprehending, right? And is comprehension being the goal of reading. You talked about vocabulary. Should there be a greater emphasis on building that vocabulary and comprehension? And what are those elements in structured biliteracy or in other ways to foster that?
Right. So what we see is teachers spend about 30% of their day on oral language, but it's not well-designed, intentional, authentic, purposeful. In the United States, we have these practice guides from the Institute for Education Sciences, practice guides. And we have one in particular that's really looking at the academic language and content knowledge of these students in the upper elementary grades into the, middle school grades. And what we find is, yes, let's get a set of these words, these academic words, and let's create these multiple opportunities for use across the content areas, right? And for these students, some of the best word learning strategies are to really capitalize on what we call our cognates. And these are words that are similar across languages that look the same and similar in spelling, similar in meaning. And I often give the example of the word canoe, and finding that, wow, look, I can see this very same word in English and in Spanish and Catalan. I can see it in German. I can see it in French, right? I even saw it in Vietnamese, and I could figure out that that was canoe. So can we capitalize upon that and capitalize upon, for example, in the Spanish language, we use words that are very high level academic words in English. And I'll give you an example. When my son was in high school, he came home and he goes, "Hey, Mom, what does the word placate exactly mean?" And I turned to him and I told him in Spanish, "Jaime, cuando mami te dice aplácate." It's a word that we use every day, like, hey, calm down, right? And we use the word placate. In English, you use the word calm. So we use very high level fancy words, but it's not just knowing that we use it. It's making the connections in an intentional manner and teaching our students that this is a strategy for them. Think about, does this exist in my home language and what connection can I make? That's up to us as educators to capitalize. But these are some very good word learning strategies, and also looking at what I called earlier, those morphemes and morphological awareness. And I call, when you work across those languages, meta morphological awareness, because you're not only thinking in one language, we're always thinking across languages, right? And so just capitalizing on that kind of meta-linguistic skill and teaching our students how we do that work, so then they can generalize it and they can be independent one day and just trying to figure out, what does this exactly say? And I've got to have, yes, the ultimate goal is reading comprehension. But for reading comprehension, you're right. I have to be able to read the print on the page accurately. I've got to be able to understand the words there. I have to have some kind of background knowledge and experience, right? So that I, can make some kind of connection to the content of what I'm reading about. And I have to be active and strategic, always kind of monitoring my comprehension. But we want to teach the students how they can really foster, we need to help them to foster these skills, and we need to help them understand, what a resource they have, and that they can use that to that development of high levels of comprehension in the second language.